Embassy Suites, downtown Des Moines, Iowa Energy Forum, sponsored by the Greater Des Moines Partnership.
Thank you so much for joining me for episode 26 of Blue.Green.Fusion, Blue Collar Jobs for a Green Economy. I'm the host, Lee McQueen, and the title of today's episode is So It Begins. I'm very, very excited about what we've seen in the city of Des Moines and then around the state of Iowa in terms of progress being made on the green economy. And as you see some of the video that I've collected for this show, I'm also very excited about progress being driven by policymakers and the leadership in central Iowa and then the state of Iowa as well. What the green economy does come down to is policy. Policy, policy, policy drives the green economy, sustainability, and then progress on infrastructure as well.
The Greater Des Moines Partnership sent out a notice by email of an Iowa Energy Forum, including a free lunch. Look who showed up.
And so progress is being made. There is leadership, there are accomplishments and things that we can be proud of. So I'm very excited, and it looks like a lot of great things are happening. Usually I start off the show with announcements. Today's episode there are no announcements, but just reports on community visits and then meetings and then information I've gathered from a wide variety of sources. I'm going to go ahead and start off with the terrific downtown farmers market that I shared in the previous episode, episode 25. And if that excited you, I'll go a little bit more in depth and show the season guide, the downtown farmers market. They passed this out, and there's a letter from the president, or actually the director of the downtown farmers market. She says that the downtown farmers market has become a community tradition, attracting nearly 20,000 visitors every Saturday morning to the historic Court District. The market is an open-air street market and mirrors the history, culture, diversity, and people of our community. And if you do take a look at those videos, you'll see that she's right. And I've been there and just been amazed and very pleased at the atmosphere. It's like a big old carnival, Mardi Gras every Saturday. It's just great. More than 200 vendors travel to downtown Des Moines before the sun comes up to prepare to sell eager urban customers. The market isn't just a place to buy your locally grown fruits, vegetables, meats, and flowers. It's a place to meet the farmers who grow them. And so there's a variety of Iowa-raised meat, farm-fresh eggs, bread, pies, and pastries. Many value-added products such as artisan cheese, wine, salsa, mustard, jam, and jellies. Unique handmade jewelry, apparel, soap, and art will also tempt you, she says. But new this year is the Wednesday market. And so it's going to be a carnival on Wednesday, midday. And so that'll be during the week and specifically focused to the 75,000 people that commute to downtown to work. And there's more on the interior. All right. Yes, the new Wednesday market here is what they told us about. And so the Downtown Community Alliance is pleased to announce, in addition to the Downtown Farmers Market, the new Wednesday market will be offered in the Western Gateway starting August 31st, 2011 this year. This 6-week pilot program will be held on Wednesdays from April 31st to October 5th, 2011 in the Western Gateway on 13th Street between Grand Avenue and Locust in downtown Des Moines, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and that's in addition to the usual Saturday farmers market that's going to be sponsored by Meredith, Medibank, Nationwide, Wellmark, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and the Des Moines Register. So good on all of you for looking out for the people of Des Moines and offering that extra something that we could all probably use. The Wednesday market will feature 30 vendors and offer a mix of seasonal fresh fruit, vegetables, specialty and artisan food, local art and entertainment. Future plans include expansion of the site. Since it's a pilot program, they're going to see how it goes and how the community responds. And so if there's support, they're going to continue it and possibly expand it, which is wonderful.
I think what we hope to do is really have a comprehensive energy plan for the future, recognizing, you know, we've made great progress in Iowa. Iowa's been a real leader in renewable energy and wind energy, but we also need to have a comprehensive approach that makes sure that we have adequate, low-cost energy that will make us competitive for the future, and that's one of the factors that business decision makers look at, and it's an advantage that we need to certainly have as we look to the future. And we also want to do it in a way that is also environmentally sound.
They did also offer some market shopping tips, which I'll also share here. Know the market hours, which is the Saturday market. That's from 7 a.m. to noon. So it's 5 hours to rush downtown and get the best of the best. Bring a bag, try something new, bring a cooler, ask questions, dress comfortably, visit often, and bring cash. I do all of that mostly, except I don't bring a cooler, but I do everything else. It's a great time down at the Des Moines Farmers Market, always. Okay, so that's the food side of the green economy. Transportation is another aspect of the green economy, and there's been some development with the regional bus system, public transportation bus system that we have in the Des Moines area. It's called DART, Des Moines Area Regional Transit Authority. And so they're doing a planning study. They've been doing a planning study, collecting data, and now they're sharing the results, and I'll share those with you as well. The planning study was very similar to the Capitol Crossroads vision planning that I spoke of several times on the show. And so DART enacted a similar process of data collection and public participation, and then they created a draft plan, and then they're going to do an alternatives analysis. So the data collection came first, where they did a full count of passengers, got statistics, embarked and disembarked from the bus. They also had public participation, where they did surveys on the bus, and then they also had consultants who ran and moderated public meetings, which I attended one a couple of months ago, and I reported on that for Blue.Green.Fusion. And then they're also going to have additional public meetings this summer. The date's not set, but if you did miss the earlier meetings or you just want to follow up, watch their website, which is ridedart.com, to give more feedback and input on the planning process. So they also put up the public meeting materials that the PowerPoint presentation from the April meeting is also available on the ridedart.com website. On the website, there's the draft framework and guiding principles, and so that's the PowerPoint that's on their website. Forthcoming is also the alternatives analysis, and so that's to identify the ideal type of rapid transit, such as express bus or bus rapid transit or light rail.
This session is going to end without the legislature dealing with the Mid-American Nuclear Bill. Is that going to be a problem?
Well, this is a big project, and it's a long-range project. So it would be preferable. I think the House has passed it. It would be preferable if the Senate would take action on it before they leave, so we can move forward. But even at that, as I understand, it's an 8 or 9 year deal. So putting it off, I don't think would be the wise thing to do.
But it sounds as if the federal approval for it wouldn't even be in the next, wouldn't be before legislators reconvene in January of 2020.
Yeah, and I'm not sure on all the details on that. I just think that we shouldn't be ruling out any prospective source of reliable, low-cost energy that can be done in an environmentally safe way.
But what I saw from the map is that most of the embarking and disembarking for DART is in the central part of Des Moines, specifically downtown. There's a big radius of where people come to get on the bus and get off the bus, and that's because there's a major amount of employment in the central part of the city. And you can see that from the map where they try to find out where the employment centers in the city are, and then compare that to the larger concentration of population in the city of Des Moines, and then also where there's a lot of public transportation usage. And all three of those elements converge in downtown Des Moines. There's also been a push for major employment centers in West Des Moines, and I examined that when I did a show that focused on sprawl in the Des Moines area, and discovered from the bus that there's major employment centers in the westernmost edge of West Des Moines. And you can see, if you do drive out that way or you take a bus out that way, you'll see maybe an occasional industrial center, like a large mirrored building out in the middle of nowhere. And when I say nowhere, of course it's somewhere, it's West Des Moines, but it's in an area very, very isolated. There's a large building symbolizing maybe technology or employment or industry, but then a vast field of nothingness surrounding it. And so employment is being driven from the downtown Des Moines center to West Des Moines. And so population is also being, I wouldn't say driven, but maybe steered is one way to say it. The population is being steered towards employment centers, which drains the central part of the city of having a retail or commercial property tax base in the center part of the city, and then also not so many people buying homes in the central part of the city. And then also a lack of just vitality in the city. And you can see the results of that by looking at our downtown area and the fact that there's so many vacancies. As the population has been shifting, so has the bus system. And it does seem like they're driving their data and the information towards supporting the shift towards the suburbs and the shift towards sprawl, and then also shifting their services and their efforts towards expansion to the suburbs, and then as a result limiting service in the central part of the city. So it's not sustainable. That's not a sustainable model of transportation. It's not a green economy type of system. It's a drain on the city to subsidize the suburbs. And so I'm not really sure what they think will ideally result from that. I think there's some sort of need, maybe public relations need or marketing need to shift the image of public transportation in the central part of city, in the regional area of Des Moines, from lower income to higher income. And so they're shifting services from the central Des Moines area to the suburbs. And so it's one way of looking at things. I don't know. It might be a short-term fix. I don't know if it's a long-term fix. It's not a sustainable fix. And then it's also not a green economy fix. There are also other cities, such as Buffalo. You can go down a list of cities who found out the hard way that draining resources from the central part of the city to support the suburbs is not a sustainable model of public transportation. And so it's very interesting. I'm not sure where they're getting their ideas on this as being good from, but it looks like that's where they're headed, finding data to support the idea that Des Moines area rapid transit should support suburban transportation over urban transportation. Also, this has been written on in the Des Moines Register. This is the Friday, May 20th Des Moines Register. And I'll read the title, the headline. It's Des Moines Bus System Asks Help in Mapping Its Future. And I don't know if if the request for public input is cosmetic, where they want to give the illusion that the public is involved, or if they are actually asking for help from the public and then using public input to decide the future of their service. I know that I gave input at the meeting that I attended, and I did feel that I was listened to, but, you know, it's one thing to listen, it's another thing entirely to actually absorb those ideas and then use those ideas constructively or productively in planning. Okay. In a series of public hearings and through an online survey, DART officials have asked riders, non-riders, and the 20 governments that help pay for the bus system what they want out of mass transit in the next 25 years. The input has produced two distinct, if somewhat competing themes. People want more frequent service, and they want service to more locations. The challenge for DART leadership is to design a system that attempts to serve both desires, without alienating loyal users and raising the price tag so much that regional government officials balk at participating. A constant challenge is that DART is in a region where people are used to driving where they want to go and parking outside the front door of their destination. So there is that dichotomy where there's existing routes and existing ridership, but the service is not as frequent as people feel it should be. For instance, on weekends, the service is very limited. I think past 5:45 is when bus service stops completely in the city of Des Moines. And then also during the week, some people feel that it should come more frequently during the day, and then also serve people past 10 o'clock in the evening. So and this is particularly so people with retail jobs, people who work second or third shift have transportation. Those who don't work the 9 to 5 might also need transportation outside those business hours. Okay, so there's more on the interior. Let's see. The Des Moines metro area has more than 500,000 residents, fewer than half of whom live in Des Moines. And that's a very interesting way that the Register wrote that, because the other way to look at this is Des Moines, the city proper, within the city limits of Des Moines, is actually the most highly populated area in the Des Moines metro. There's more people living within the city of Des Moines, working within the city of Des Moines, attending school in the city of Des Moines than in the surrounding suburban areas. If you do count each suburb, like Ankeny, West Des Moines, Urbandale, Boone, Altoona, if you add those all up together and then compare them to the city of Des Moines, altogether those suburbs eventually will add up to more population. But if you take each separate suburban area like Ankeny or West Des Moines or Altoona versus Des Moines still outnumbers each of the suburban regions of the Des Moines area. So it depends on how you look at it and how you write it. All right, so, but anyway, they go on to say that for DART to prosper, it must find ways to serve populations west and east of Des Moines while still serving its core commuter base. People who live in cities east and west Des Moines want to travel between locations in the suburbs, and they do have some quotes supporting that. But again, that does contribute to sprawl. When you service the suburbs and then take away from the urban area to support the suburbs, that's drain. That's drain, and then also that's sprawl. So I guess DART needs to ask itself, does it support sprawl or does it support sustainability? You can't do both at the same time. Routes to more destinations might allow DART to lure new riders who come from the suburbs or other parts of the city who want to take in a show at the Civic Center, have a drink and a meal on Court Avenue, or catch a game at Principal Park. Let's see, downtown Des Moines, of course, is the biggest boarding spot during the week, servicing mostly commuters. Other major boarding points, which transportation engineers call nodes, include Park Fair Mall, Merrill Hay, Jordan Creek, Southridge, and Valley West Malls, and the Apple Valley Shopping Center in Windsor Heights. So it does sound like they're trying to actually change or amplify or mix up the customer base. Right now it's mostly low-income riders, and then also riders who really care about the environment, or who for whatever reason can't or choose not to drive, who use the bus system. And this includes students as well. It does sound as if they want to get middle-class riders, we'll say, to use the bus system as well. I'm all for increasing ridership, but then also not sacrificing one area to support another. That's kind of cynical, I think. So when it comes to frequency, DART's president also provides a template. The number 3 route runs on University Avenue from downtown Des Moines to Windsor Heights and Clive. It's the busiest route in the system with the most boarding and departures at individual stops along the way. This is true. I've been on the number 3 bus. It runs from downtown past DMAC, Des Moines Area Community College. Also, it runs through past Drake University. And then it runs past high schools, and then it runs to two major shopping areas, the Walmart, which is in Windsor Heights, and then Valley West Mall. And so along that route, there is a lot of boarding and exiting from that route. It's very busy, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 10 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock at night. The bus is full, and they need more buses on that route. They probably need at least, I would say, twice the number of buses that they currently have, because sometimes often it's standing room only, and maybe they're leaving money on the table from people who aren't able to stand or pack in to get on that bus. And so that's some other things to look at. Frequency versus, again, more destinations. All right, so in Buffalo, they actually did make reference to Buffalo, which I've also seen their public transportation system too. But their officials face criticism that the elimination of some weekend routes unfairly burden low-income riders in certain areas of Buffalo Metro. In July, DART officials will begin shopping ideas to the public and governments. DART will change a lot in the coming years, and there will be controversy, and that's according to DART officials, and I agree. There will be change, and there will be controversy as a result of that change. That's just the way the world works. To finish up with DART, this is coming from the Business Record, the May 20th businessrecord.com. White's company likely to construct new DART Central Station hub. We did talk about White's and the fact that they had been losing a series of bids to union contractors. Looks like they are likely to win this bid for the DART Central Station. Des Moines Area Rapid Transit announced today that White's Company has submitted the lowest bid to construct the new DART hub at 620 Cherry Street and is likely to be awarded the contract at the May 31st DART Commission meeting. So that's forthcoming. Officials broke ground on the hub with the ceremony, and construction will get underway in June and is expected to be completed by fall 2010. And that's according to officials, either with DART or White's. It doesn't specify which. So that's where that stands today.
Do you think it's low-cost energy? That's what some of the critics are alleging, that it's not low-cost.
Well, we see a lot of other countries that have moved forward and been successful using nuclear energy, and it has been low cost compared to many of the other sources. Because of all the EPA regulations on coal, that's become a lot more expensive than it used to be. I mean, most of Midwestern energy has been generated by coal, but for the future, there is some clean coal technology. I think that also should be considered, along with we've discovered a lot more natural gas in this country. Natural gas is another alternative. So I don't think we should have all our eggs in any one basket. I think in renewable energies, we've been a real leader in that, but the wind doesn't blow every day either.
I also paid a visit to the Des Moines City Council, and I've talked about the Des Moines City Council activities in previous episodes and the fact that they do a lot of zoning and planning and allocation of resources for infrastructure and things related to construction and things like that as in terms of how it relates to the green economy. There were several items on the agenda that I paid close attention to. One is item number 41, the Sustainable Communities Regional Planning Grant Consortium Agreement as it relates to the HUD grant to Des Moines Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. And Councilman at Large Morris spoke on that in terms of the environmental issues and the impact on the green infrastructure. He also mentioned that there's forthcoming opportunities for people affiliated with the City of Des Moines to learn more about green infrastructure.
However, I talked to the Assistant City Manager today about this issue, and there is a little bit of disappointment. Not about this, but several months ago, it was suggested that city staff take a week-long school at the National Conservation Training Center on green infrastructure. We've got the definition of green infrastructure up here. A lot of people, I thought when I went out there for my classes, I thought, well, they're just going to be teaching us about planting trees along the streets and stuff like that. That is not what it is.
He assisted me with some research on green infrastructure in general. This research came from http://greenvalues.cnt.org. And it's pretty interesting. It gives definition on green infrastructure and defines it as rain gardens, wetland restoration, trees, green roofs, swales, and native landscaping greenways. And we've spoken on those issues several times related to stormwater management and then also just the green economy in general. But if you want to learn more about green infrastructure, we can thank Skip Moore for passing this information on. Again, the website is greenvalues.cnt.org. And so there was also discussion on the Kemen Industries. This was item 52 on the agenda regarding the expansion of Kemen Industries Incorporated and the Kemen Corporate Campus. There's a lot of subheadings underneath that. There's a lot of issues to cover in terms of their expansion. A lot of community input came as a result of that. And so it was referred back to the city manager for more research and consideration. So that was that item on the agenda that I found very interesting in terms of how it might relate to Blue.Green.Fusion, is the master bike plan. We talked about the master bike plan in an earlier episode. Number 60 was to receive and file Trails and Greenways Advisory Committee their recommendation of the Bicycle and Trail Master Plan as an element of the 2020 Community Character Plan. And if you look in the news in the community section and then just around the city, we've had RAGBRAI here for a long time, which is very famous around the nation. But then there's also interest in biking within the city limits and then around various trails as they crisscross the city. And so this is one way that they want to do some planning on biking within the city limits. So far, it's been going very well, though there's been some hesitation with biking and there's some resistance. That's being overcome as more and more streets are being designated with bike lanes and more people are seeing more bikes on the street. I think it's great. It's a sustainable form of transportation. It's great exercise. It's a great way to see elements of the city that you pass by in your car. And I'm very glad that they've made efforts to actually solidify the idea of biking in the city. If we make Des Moines more bikeable, that can only add to the quality of life. So very good. So there's some general articles that I found on the green economy. One is coming from a website called businessGreen.com. This is the May 26th issue. OECD says green policies can drive economic growth, which is something that I've been saying too as well. I'm glad other people are saying it. The green economy can provide new sources of growth and jobs worth trillions of dollars by 2050, but achieving this will require governments worldwide to adopt policies encouraging innovation, investment, and entrepreneurship. That is the view of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. Its Towards Green Growth series of reports, published yesterday, aims to provide a framework to guide governments to boost economic growth without compromising environmental protection. So it looks like, again, more and more people are embracing the idea that the future of economic growth lies within the green economy. We've seen that internationally and nationally and then statewide. Another article is from a website called www.wri.org. This is World Resources Institute, their website. And they provided a Q&A on what is a green economy. This is from the April 5th, 2011. That's when it was written. They say the global recession has brought new attention to chronic structural flaws in current economic models and assumptions. As economies struggle to recover, many are taking a closer look at the broad concept of the green economy, one that simultaneously promotes sustainability and economic growth. So they want to see what that might look like and what it consists of. They answer the first question, what is a green economy? And it can be thought of as an alternative vision for growth and development, one that can generate growth and improvements in people's lives in ways consistent with sustainable development. And it promotes a triple bottom line, sustaining and advancing economic, environmental, and social well-being. They answer a few other questions, including what does a green economy look like? And they provide examples. One, the Republic of Korea, Mexico City, China, and then Namibia. Mexico City in particular is heavily populated. It's actually it is the most populous city, I believe, in the Western Hemisphere. They had, as a result, they had severe traffic congestion, and so now they're emphasizing a bus system that's kind of increased its sophistication. They also have light rail too. But anyway, there's several examples of what a green economy can look like. They also answer the question, what are some of the concerns and tensions with the concept of the green economy? What are the challenges to a transition to a green economy, and what will make it possible? And so that's a great article, and again, that's coming from the World Resources Institute. You can Google that, or you can go straight to the website. It's www.wri.org.
It's an exclusive meeting, free lunch. Some are getting in, and then some aren't. Some are on the list, and then some are not.
I think we're going to,
So we talked a lot about government policies and what's happening around the world a little bit, and then also within the city of Des Moines. Back to the city of Des Moines, something wonderful, the Iowa Energy Forum, and this is a program for it. I attended myself, Conversation on the State of the American Energy, and that's with Governor Terry Branstad. I asked the question of the leadership that we have within the state of Iowa, and of course within central Des Moines, but the Des Moines area, but also within the state of Iowa, since the executive level of our government guides the policy of what happens in our state. And so we see this example of leadership where Terry Branstad brought several people together to discuss energy in Iowa, of course America too as well, but it was great.
Join the Iowa Energy Forum in hosting this conversation that we know is so important to all of our economic futures. The Iowa Energy Forum is a statewide coalition of Iowans striving to raise the conversation with elected officials and all citizens on the need for a comprehensive domestic energy policy. And the partnership just returned from our annual Washington, D.C. trip, and that certainly is our position in seeking with our federal partners a comprehensive...
Looked inside the program and described who attended. Martha Willits, she's the president and CEO of the Great Des Moines Partnership. She opened up the meeting, and then Janine Beck with Iowa Public Radio was the moderator.
Janine Beck, thank you for that very nice introduction. Martha Willits, also thank you. And thank you to the Des Moines Partnership for joining the Iowa Energy Forum in hosting this event. And it's great to see the mayor of Des Moines, many legislators, Lieutenant Governor Kim Reynolds, and our Secretary of Agriculture, Bill Northey here. The Lieutenant Governor and I both applaud you for your efforts to bring together this distinguished group of people to discuss the state and national energy issues. This is critically important to the future of our state and to our nation's economy. It's a topic that crosses state lines while affecting the pocketbooks of all of us. And Iowa is a great location to have a discussion about energy. We've come a long ways from where we used to be back, I guess, when I was a kid, or even when I first started in the legislature back in the 1970s. When we were very heavily dependent on energy coming in from outside. At that time, I was one of the early supporters of something we called gasohol, which of course we've changed the name. It's now ethanol, and Iowa's come a long way. We are the leader in the production of ethanol in this state, and we have many locations all over the state where it's produced. I'm actually an investor in one with Bill Cowser up at Lincoln Way. Not only has the name changed, but we've seen tremendous advancements in the way it's produced.
One of the people who spoke was Bill Fairman. He's the president and chief executive officer of Mid-American Energy Company. All right, and then he's also president, chief executive, and chief nuclear officer of Mid-American Nuclear Energy Company. He's a member of Mid-American's Company Board of Directors, and then the Nuclear Division as well, Board of Directors. And so they're both subsidiaries of Mid-American Energy, and they are described as a global leader in the production of energy from diversified fuel sources, including geothermal, natural gas, hydroelectric, nuclear, coal, and wind. And so they have approximately 6.9 million electricity and gas customers.
I want to sort of structure my remarks around two different levels. The first is at the federal level and what's happening across our overall government and the Environmental Protection Agency, and then bring that back down closer to home. When you look at the energy mix across the United States, about 45% of our energy is generated by coal, about 24-25% is generated by gas, and about 20% by nuclear. And when you look at what has really transpired over many, many, many years, going all the way back to the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, this country was really built upon a foundation of fossil fuels.
And so his emphasis was the fact that we are not prepared at this time to give up fossil fuels entirely. From the late 1800s to today. Progress and industrialization and growth was largely fueled by fossil fuels.
And when you think about the alternatives for doing that, the list gets short very quickly. You have obviously renewables. There's geothermal, which can provide electricity around the clock, but after you go beyond that and you get into solar, you get into wind, those simply cannot provide the sorts of energy resources that will power our economy and our quality of life around the clock. And so you're left with natural gas and nuclear power, assuming that over the next many, many years, there will not be some way to continue to utilize our greatest resource, which is coal. And so in looking at that sort of a dynamic and bringing it back down to the state of Iowa, Iowa has been a dynamic leader in putting forth very strong, very positive policy around energy and the use of energy and staying ahead of the curve.
And that electricity is a foundation of a high quality of life, and that there are now many environmental regulations, but there's no perfect way to generate electricity, and that it's good to have a diverse mix. And so that was his take on the whole energy issue.
As a farmer, as a cattle feeder, as an ethanol producer, you in a group like this.
Next up to speak was Bill Kalzer from Lincoln Way Energy, of which Terry Branstad is an investor, he told me. Mr. Kalzer has been director of Lincoln Way Energy since Lincoln Way Energy was organized in May 2004. He's also self-employed as a farmer and has been since 1977. And his farming operations include row crops and cattle.
You all do your math or look how the bushel of corn is split out after it goes through an ethanol plant. Basically, you've got a third that's distiller's grains, a third that's ethanol, a third that's CO2, and then we spin the corn oil off the backside. Basically, today we're at 2.85 gallons of ethanol per bushel. We have about 4/10 of a pound of corn oil per bushel. We have 15 pounds of distiller's grains per bushel, and we have about 16.15 pounds of CO2 per bushel of corn. So when you take those facts and put them all together, what I wanted to do here was show you gross dollars, what happens to us on the farm, and then as this travels through the industry and goes through the economic development. On today's market, when you take 200 bushel times $7, you end up with $1,400. I harvest corn stalks, and so I'm going to give credit of $80 for corn stalks.
So he had a lot to say about biodiesel, and then also provided us with this discussion of the food versus fuel controversy. So he broke that down with his handout. Probably if you contact him, he'll get that information to you, but I'm not going to read it entirely.
I purchased that steer. And I want to be real careful here. When we back figure the calories that it takes to put on a pound of gain, whether it's a chicken, whether it's a pig, or whether it's a steer, 1 acre will take a steer from 500 to 1,300 pounds. So I'm using 1 steer per acre because he is eating the equivalent of the calories of the distiller's grains off of that 1 acre. So every acre is 1 steer.
But it does give the story and the breakdown of what 1 acre of corn can accomplish in terms of ethanol, corn oil, distilled corn, and then also how much it can go to feed the cattle and feed the customers.
The steer has been sold to the grocery store for a markup of about $100, and that's usually about where it figures. So another $1,794 has been generated. The CO2 cost has been passed on to the consumer through the food product of $16.03. The ethanol to the consumer has been sold through the gas station and has generated another $2,011. The feed or the fuel to the consumer, whichever direction it decided to go, it's another $10.60. And now the grocery store has sold that nice tender steak to you for $1,894. Has anybody taken the time yet to figure out what that 1 acre of corn in Iowa has generated in gross dollars today? It's $12,930 on 1 acre of corn.
So that was pretty interesting, very fascinating to hear from the inside of how things like that are accomplished. Ethanol is very controversial in terms of the food versus fuel concept, and then also the subsidies, which have been spoken of on both sides of the issue, both Republican and Democrat, with everyone having a very different opinion from the other about whether and how it should be subsidized.
And wind blades, you know, there's sort of these majestic looking things when they're spinning in the air or going down the road. They're really highly engineered products that demand adherence to precise manufacturing design and quality standards. And we're happy that we've been able to build them over in Newton since 2008. Newton is also home to another company, Trinity Structural Towers. The governor referenced them previously. This is a company that makes the large stands that the turbines sit up in the air on.
The next speaker was Mark Perriott. He's the general manager of TPI Iowa. It was a very fascinating discussion from him.
Start with some data from a March 2011 study by a group out of Europe, BTM Consult APS. 2009, as everyone probably knows, was a huge year for wind globally, with 43% annual growth in new installations. However, 2010 was flat to 2009 with only 1% growth. However, during that time, China was by far and away the global leader in the addition of new wind capacity, moving from 4th to at the end of last year. China had 22% of the world's installed capacity of wind energy. In China, what we expect is China to continue to add capacity in the 16 to 1,800 gigawatt range. So just really aggressive plans in China. Let's compare that to what's going on in the U.S. During the period from 2006 to the peak in 2009, the rate of installations of new wind generating capacity in the U.S. continued to increase, peaking in 2009 with nearly 10 gigawatts installed in 2009. Happy to say that Mid-American was a big part of that and continues to be a leader nationwide. In 2010, however, the rate of installation of new wind in the U.S. fell by about 50% to about 5 gigawatts. So at the same time that China continued to grow and expand, we cut our new installations in half.
He joined TPI Composites in June 2009. He serves as the company's Group Operations Director. TPI is headquartered in Scottsdale, Arizona, with plants in the U.S., Mexico, and China. They're the leading manufacturer of large composite structures, including wind blades.
2009 was the year that Iowa moved past California to become the second largest wind energy production state, trailing only Texas, which, as the governor observed, is much larger than we are geographically. So just a huge accomplishment. Today, depending on whose numbers you listen to, we have 15 to 17% of the state's electrical generation capacity is represented by wind, which is by far and away the leader in the country. However, last year in 2010, the state added essentially zero new capacity online in the state of Iowa, almost zero. I don't want to say there was nothing done, but certainly nothing on a utility scale was done during 2010. During that same year, 2010, Texas added another 680 megawatts. Illinois and California added about 500 megawatts each, and South Dakota and Minnesota both added 396 megawatts. A huge advantage that I think we have over traditional fuel sources is the fact that a higher percentage of the revenue produced stays in the state. And so it provides substantial supplemental income to landowners, specifically farmers. Iowa has also enjoyed significant growth in manufacturing jobs related to wind. Iowa is home to 9 wind manufacturing facilities. 2 are located right in Newton, a manufacturing town that was hit hard by the consolidation in the appliance industry a couple of years ago. And in Newton, TPI has exceeded our commitment to the state to create 504 jobs, and we now have an annual payroll in excess of $20 million. I think maybe the most significant issue, just uncertainty around U.S. government policy. There is, and you've heard other panelists say this, there is no energy policy in this. Another issue that limits the continued development of wind energy resources is energy transmission. So with respect to the Iowa industry, I'm going to thank the governor, I hope in advance, for signing into law House File 672, which is on his desk now, which will strengthen the state's wind production tax credits. And then also another...
We'll be signing it tomorrow. So you're invited.
I think from a state standpoint, transmission is a big issue for it, or can be a big issue, should be a big issue. I think it's a key enabler to making Iowa a net exporter of electrical energy. Currently within the state, we've got something like 3,800 megawatts of installed capacity. The total capacity, total capability of the state is 20 gigawatts. So we could grow the industry by 5 times in this state. But obviously we don't have enough people in industry here to utilize all that energy, so we could become a net exporter.
So that was also very fascinating listening to him as well.
Did you know that our national leadership is so dominating that our level of ethanol production in this state is twice the nearest state, twice as much as the nearest state, and represents over 25% of the national capacity. So obviously we're a net exporter of ethanol, and I'd like to see us show that same type of leadership and become a net exporter of electrical energy as well. So to just kind of wrap this up, wind energy is a key part of the developing green economy. I believe that alternatives hold the promise of energy independence for the U.S., and wind is an essential component, especially here in Iowa. Iowa has shown national leadership in the development of wind resources and is enjoying the results. In Newton alone, we have 2 manufacturing companies employing over 800 people, supplying demand from Ontario in Canada to Oregon, North Dakota to South Texas. A point that I didn't even make, and I should make, is in the manufacturing sector in wind, our little plant over there in Newton, only 25% of our product, of our installed base, is in Iowa. We're 75% of the products we produce are exported. So we not only can produce electricity, we can produce products to power.
The last speaker was Mr. John Felmy, and he is the chief economist from the American Petroleum Institute. From him, we got this handout. EnergyCitizens.org is where you can find more information. Okay. And his areas of emphasis are the economic, statistical, and policy analysis of the Institute. And so he also spoke on many things.
Primarily petrochemicals and so on, 5% primarily for heating oil in the Northeast, and only 1% goes to electricity. And I mention that because one of the things that's said over and over again in Washington is, we need solar, wind, and geothermal to reduce oil imports. No, no, no. They're very important, but until we have a fleet of electric cars, we won't reduce oil use by those sources. They're going to be very important. But until
John Felmy, he also provided this handout that kind of shows the mix of energy production on this side, and then how that energy is used. And so that was also a very interesting handout. I found it very interesting overall. Also in attendance at the Iowa Energy Forum were Representative Brad Zahn, Lieutenant Governor Kim Reynolds, Mayor Frank County, and then also Bill Northey was in attendance as well. I found the whole mix of speakers very, very intriguing, and the fact that they came from different areas of energy but have the common goal of course, you know, the business and economic aspect, but then also very focused on the future and what they could provide the customer. I was just very pleased that it had been brought to the table and it had been discussed. What I'm finding is that more and more people are addressing the issue. It's a very important thing. The green economy, renewable energy, sustainable growth, and then also a strong economy. How do we recover and come back to that? So more from the business record. Terry Branstad to sign bill creating E15 tax credit. And so he also addressed the wind energy tax credit at the Economic Forum. But this is saying that a biofuels bill that Governor Terry Branstad is scheduled to sign will provide a significant boost for ethanol and biodiesel sales in the state. And this is according to Monty Shaw, Executive Director of the Iowa Renewable Fuels Association.
Is ethanol going to be able to survive without subsidies? Governor Point, they just called for ending those.
Phasing out the subsidies makes sense. What they did in 2009 to biodiesel makes no sense. It closed down a lot of the biodiesel plants, and then they reinstated it a year later. That's what the congressman should not do. They ought to give us some time and phase it out. Now, as you know, it'll expire if they don't take action to extend it at the end of this year. So it needs to be extended, but I think it can be extended at a lower level and it can be gradually phased out over time. If they do that, I think the ethanol industry will survive and will thrive, especially with the opportunity to go to E15 and, you know, and blender pumps and things like that. I think there's some things we can do to continue to be a leader there, but it would be a mistake to just pull the rug out from under the industry as they did with biodiesel, and obviously they saw the error of their ways and extended it, and that's again short-term thinking, only doing it for a year. There ought to be a comprehensive long-term plan.
The next article is the Farm Bureau partners with Van Wall Energy on turbine purchases. This is also from the businessrecord.com. This is from May 24th. The Iowa Farm Bureau Federation has partnered with Van Wall Energy, a new division of the Van Wall Group. They are now eligible for exclusive savings on required maintenance agreements with the purchase of an endurance personal wind turbine from Van Wall Energy. There's lots of interesting things going on here on the ground in the Des Moines area, where we see different businesses partnering on different projects. We see local manufacturing of significant parts. We see sustainable growth and focus on green energy and then renewable energy as well. There was a group outside the Iowa Energy Forum who handed this to me. They conducted a counter rally, and that was organized by Des Moines WILPF, the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. Des Moines moved to amend, Iowa moved to amend, and others. And it looks like what they're saying is that to the legislators that energy policy for Iowa should be decided by we the people, not the wealthiest and most powerful Iowans. I didn't get to talk to them on my way inside, but I will say that from my feeling on what they talked about inside, that it was a very positive meeting inside, and then I'll let the viewer decide from the video I took of various speakers and of the crowd what they think of that forum overall.
National media has characterized Governor Valenti as this taker of strong stands, when indeed the phase out of ethanol is something the industry here in Iowa embraces.
Right, and I think that's a wise decision. That's it. Well, what he's saying.
Did he make that much of a strong statement when it's what the industry here?
Well, I think the good thing about the industry in Iowa is they're realistic, and they're saying we recognize the federal government has a huge budget problem to deal with, and we've got to be part of the solution. We can't just say no. And I guess that's what aggravates me about the people that come out against everybody that's got an idea to try to reduce the federal debt or deficit. It takes a lot of courage to recommend that. I guess that's why I was very complimentary of Paul Ryan, because he at least has come out with a comprehensive plan, and there are a lot of people who want to criticize it, but what's their alternative? Okay.
Thank you. I'm really pleased by what I saw and what I've been hearing, and then what I've been seeing taking place in different aspects of the green economy, whether it's water, whether it's food, whether it's transportation, recycling, waste, or energy. Different aspects of the energy or green economy are being addressed, not only with conversation, but then with policy as well. So there is hope for the future, and so it begins. Thank you so much for joining me for episode 26 of Blue.Green.Fusion. I'm very excited and looking forward to seeing you the next time.